Chapter 7. I will be jealous. Jian Ran walked out of the Lily Hotel and looked around guiltily. She only let out a sigh of relief when she did not see any familiar faces. She had dinner with her husband, and she was worried that others would see her. When she thought about it, she found it funny. Jian Ran sighed helplessly. If she had known that Qin Yu would become the new CEO of Innovation Technology Company, would she have married him so easily? Jian Ran could not give herself an answer to this question at this time, and she was not willing to spend any more time thinking about it. When she returned to the office, Jian Ran received a notification from the department manager. The manager asked the colleagues in charge of the Starlight Company's bidding program to prepare well. They wanted to discuss this project with CEO in the afternoon. Starlight was a game development company, and it was also a subsidiary of Goose Group, a famous company in the country. Goose Group was one of the top companies in the country, and there were many companies that wanted to cooperate with this company. It was not easy to win from dozens of companies. The Starlight Company bidding for this year's innovation technology project was of utmost importance. Qin Yu had just assumed the position of CEO. It was understandable for him to pay attention to the progress of this project, but Jian Ran felt a little uncomfortable. She had been disturbed by Qin Yu at noon and had to work with him in the afternoon. She was worried that her work would be affected by him. Jian Ran and her colleagues had arrived in the meeting room ahead of time and had prepared all the necessary documents. However, her heart was still worried. Jian Ran? Lin Mei moved closer to Jian Ran's ear and softly said, "Your work ability is obvious to everyone. Don't worry too much." Jian Ran pursed her lips and smiled but did not say anything. Lin Mei was also one of the members of the project team, but she was a sweet-talking girl who did not put in much effort. Hence, Jian Ran was in charge of many things, and Lin Mei could only do small things. Another male colleague, Wang Weiming, also leaned over to Jian Ran's side. "Jian Ran, with you leading us to prepare for this project, there will definitely be no problem." Jian Ran said, "No matter what, it is always good to be careful." Jian Ran was the person in charge of this project. She had the greatest responsibility and always had more concerns than others. In addition, this project was the first project Jian Ran handled after Qin Yue took office. Apart from her work, she also wanted to leave a good impression on her husband. In the future, living together with Qin Yue, she absolutely could not let him look down on her. "Boss Qin." Someone called the boss. Everyone's eyes immediately turned to the door of the conference room. Jian Ran was no exception. She looked up and saw Qin Yue leading two assistants and walking in elegantly. At lunch, Qin Yue was wearing casual clothes. He had changed into a silver-gray suit that was hand-cut. He wore a white shirt with a blue and white striped tie, which made him look colder. "Boss Qin, hello!" Everyone stood up and greeted Qin Yue. "Everyone, please take a seat." Qin Yue said lightly and sat on the main seat. He then signaled Lu Yong to start the meeting. Qin Yue did not look at her. Jian Ran was relieved and felt more at ease. In fact, judging from Qin Yue's performance yesterday and this morning, his attitude towards public and private matters was much stricter than hers. Jian Ran was the person in charge of this project, so she began to introduce the details of the preparation for this project. Because she usually worked hard, many of the details were personally done by her. When she was analyzing the specific situation with a group of senior executives, including CEO, Jian Ran did not feel nervous at all. Not only was she not nervous, she even performed very well. At the end, Jian Ran received a round of applause. Just as she bent down to express her thanks, she acutely felt a pair of inquiring eyes on her. She looked up and saw Qin Yue's profound and unfathomable gaze. Seeing Jian Ran look over, Qin Yue smiled at her. It was a polite smile that could not be blamed for anything. It was purely the courtesy of a superior and subordinate, without any personal feelings. Jian Ran immediately returned a polite smile to Qin Yue. When it came to business and personal matters, she was clearly going to do it. She was not any worse than him. Because of the new CEO, Qin Yue had a cold expression on his face. He looked like a god that did not exist in the world and gave people a sense of distance. Everyone was a little nervous. Fortunately, they were well prepared. Qin Yue had personally confirmed the work of their group. This meeting was considered a success. When the meeting was adjourned, the members of the project team were very excited. For a moment, they forgot about the top management. Everyone said as they walked. Wang Weiming put one hand on Jian Ran's shoulder. "Jian Ran, if we can take down the Starlight Company project this time, it will be an incomparably glorious thing." Jian Ran was also happy in her heart. For a moment, she did not notice how close Wang Weiming was with her. She even smiled and nodded. "As long as we work hard together, there is nothing we cannot do." "Jian Ran." Qin Yue's cold voice suddenly came from behind her, which made Jian Ran stiffen a little. She turned around and politely said, "Boss Qin, you are looking for me?" "Jian Ran, you are the person in charge of the Starlight Company project team. Boss Qin still has some details to understand with you." The one who spoke wasn't Qin Yue. It was Xu Huiyi, who was by his side. Xu Huiyi had worked under Qin Yue for many years, so of course she knew very well what Qin Yue was thinking at the moment. CEO asked Jianran to understand the situation of the job, and the other members were smart enough to find an excuse to leave, leaving Jianran by Qinyue's side. Qinyue walked closer to Jianran. Jianran. Jianran subconsciously took 2 steps back and pulled away from Qinyue. Boss Qin, there is something you need to tell me. Qinyue approached her again. At this time, I am only Qinyue, your husband. Jianran stepped back again and looked around. Boss Qin, this is work time. Hearing Jianran's words, Qinyue frowned slightly. His eyes under the golden frame narrowed. Clearly, he was a little angry. However, due to his good self-discipline, he did not easily express his anger. After a while, he said with a serious expression, Jianran, although I know that you have nothing to do with that man, I will be jealous when I see him intimately hugging you. As your husband, I will be jealous. Jianran obviously did not expect Qinyue to say such words to her. For a moment, her face was hot and red. Finally, she pursed her lips and smiled. Boss Qin, don't worry. This will not happen again in the future. Boss Qin? Qinyue narrowed his eyes under the golden frame. He was really angry. Boss Qin, you are busy. I will go down first. Jianran had no idea that Qinyue was angry. She turned around and left after saying that. Qinyue watched Jianran enter the elevator with his eyes. His originally cold eyes became colder. Boss Qin, there are a few documents that you need to see. Shuhui reminded him at the right time. Qinyue walked to the office and said coldly, Are all you women so stubborn? Chapter 8, No Emotional Basis. Shuhui was stunned for a moment before she realized what had happened. Jianran has experienced that kind of harm and betrayal. In these 3 years, she had no one to rely on. If she was not stronger, who could she show weakness to? As he spoke, Qinyue stopped walking and looked back at her gloomily. Shuhui immediately added, But you will treat her well in the future. The meeting room was on the 23rd floor. Sales department was on the 19th floor. When the elevator reached the 22nd floor, the door opened and Ma Dana from the public relations department walked in. Jianran did not like people like Ma Dana, so she stood to the side and did not want to greet her. Ma Dana glanced at Jianran and then faced the elevator door. She raised her head high and said, There are some people. Don't think that no one knows about those ugly things that you did in the past when you changed a city. Jianran heard it and heard it. She did not want to spend energy to care about Ma Dana, this kind of woman who caused trouble. Jianran's attitude of not caring about anything annoyed Ma Dana. She turned around and gave Jianran a fierce glare. Jianran, don't tell me you don't know that our CEO is married? Jianran pursed her lips and smiled. If she did not know that Qinyue was married, who else would know? Ma Dana wanted to seduce Qinyue in her heart and recognized Jianran as well. So she said, CEO let Special Assistant Shu send an internal email this morning and announced to the entire company that he is married. Jianran was busy with the recruitment of Starlight Company today. She was so busy that she did not read the company's internal email. She really did not know about this matter. Now that she knew, she could not help but feel a little sweetness in her heart. Qinyue said that he would be jealous if he saw other men being close to her. The prerequisite was that he had already stated to everyone that he was married. Thinking of this, Jianran felt happy in her heart and could not help but laugh. Ma Dana had unrealistic fantasies about Qinyue. When she saw Qinyue's married email this morning, her heart turned cold. After being depressed for half a day, she wanted to pull someone to be depressed with her. Once she had this idea, she thought of Jianran. She wanted Jianran to have a taste of the taste that she had tasted before. Who would have thought that Jianran would actually have such a carefree expression? It really made her angry. Ma Dana was so angry that she stomped her foot and gritted her teeth as she thought that she could not do anything to Jianran now. But one day, she would catch hold of Jianran's weakness and make Jianran not to be so arrogant anymore. Because of yesterday's lesson, after Jianran got off work today, she did not waste any time to rush back home as soon as possible. She hoped that she could make dinner before Qinyue got off work and could not starve him anymore. When she went to the supermarket to buy ingredients, Jianran called Qinyue. When Jianran called, Qinyue was holding a temporary meeting with a few higher-ups. He raised his hand to signal for everyone to be quiet before picking up the phone. Is something the matter? Jianran said. I'm at the supermarket. Do you have anything you like to eat? Qinyue said calmly, I'm not picky about food. Just do as you see fit. When Qinyue said this, Shu Yi and Lu Yang were beside him. When the two of them heard him say this, they exchanged looks at the same time. If they said that CEO was not picky about food, then I'm afraid there's no one else in the world who can be picky. When Qinyue returned home, Jianran was busy in the kitchen. She was wearing an apron and her long black hair was casually tied up in a bun, revealing her fair neck. She was cooking with a spatula in her hand. Seeing her like this, it wasn't hard to imagine that she was also so outstanding at work. Qinyue stared blankly for a while before he walked to the kitchen. Jianran, I'm back. Jianran turned around and smiled faintly. Go and change your clothes first. It will be dinner soon. Qinyue stood still and did not move. Jianran. Jianran's hands did not stop moving. She turned around and looked at him. What's wrong? I'm going to change my clothes. Qinyue originally said that she didn't need to be busy cooking after work. He asked the cooking aunt to prepare it, but in his heart, he felt that eating the food personally cooked by his wife was also not bad. The way he felt at home was to go home after work and eat the hot food cooked by his wife, instead of being cooked by the cooking lady. Jianran prepared 3 dishes and a soup. There were white sliced chicken, onion stir-fried meat, green stir-fried lotus root slices, and golden needle mushroom minced meat soup. At noon, she saw that Qinyue only ate some light dishes. Jianran guessed that he liked light food, so she made these few side dishes. Qinyue changed his clothes and came out. The dishes were already on the table. When he saw the onions on the table, he frowned slightly, but soon he acted as if nothing had happened. Jianran naturally did not notice it either. Jianran brought the soup over and first served a bowl to Qinyue. I have been busy for the whole day. Let's drink a bowl of soup first. Okay. Qinyue took the bowl and took a sip. Jianran picked up the onions and put them into Qinyue's bowl. The onions are very healthy. Eat more, okay? Qinyue nodded. However, he did not eat immediately. Instead, he drank the soup slowly. After he finished a bowl, he added another bowl. He also ate a few pieces of white sliced chicken and some lotus slices. He did not touch the bowl of rice and onions Jianran had picked up. Jianran noticed it and lowered her head to eat the rice in big mouthfuls. Her heart felt a little sour. Jianran did not speak again. Qinyue also did not like to talk at the dining table. The atmosphere was very quiet for a moment. After the meal, Qinyue was in charge of washing the dishes. Jianran did not say anything and turned around to return to the room. She knew that the relationship between her and Qinyue was not that close yet, but she still could not help feeling sad when she saw him dislike her dishes so much. However, she thought about it carefully again. Their marriage was a marriage without any emotional foundation, and it was just for the sake of marriage. Although they were already husband and wife, the two of them did not know each other, nor were they intimate to the point of picking food for each other. It was her carelessness. In the future, she would try her best to be as respectful as a guest to him in life, and definitely wouldn't do anything out of line again. After thinking it through, Jianran also did not bother about the matter of picking food just now. She turned on the computer and prepared to carefully read the plan for the Starlight project. This Friday was the opening day. So many people had been busy for such a long time, so they definitely could not make any mistakes. Jianran just opened the folder when the phone on the side rang. Jianran saw that it was her best friend, Ling Feiyu, who called. When she picked up the call, she heard Ling Feiyu's fiery roar. Damn girl, where did you die? Why didn't you tell me when you moved? You want to scare me to death? Ling Feiyu was Jianran's high school and university classmate. Back then when Jianran betrayed her family, she was the only one standing by Jianran's side. Jianran decided to come to Jianbei to develop. Ling Feiyu did not even think and dragged a simple suitcase along with Jianran as they left the bustling capital to Jianbei City. She was worried that Jianran would do something stupid by herself. She originally wanted to accompany Jianran for 2 months and wait for Jianran to settle down before returning to the capital. Chapter 9, A Female Friend. But in the end, they felt that Jianbei, this new international metropolis, was not bad, so Ling Feiyu and Jianran settled down together. The two of them took out all their money and opened a wedding dress design studio. Jianran needed money. To be more precise, Jianran felt that no matter how close the person was, they would not be reliable. Only money could give her a sense of security. She needed an extra job to make money, so she entered the Innovation Technology Company. Hence, she only funded and did not participate in the wedding dress design studio's management. But Ling Feiyu knew that this was only one of the reasons. The real reason was that Jianran was no longer willing to take up a pen to draw wedding dress drawings. So Jianran chose a job that was completely unrelated to painting. That was the wound that Jianran buried deep in her heart. Until now, no one had been able to help her heal that scar in her heart. In front of Ling Feiyu, Jianran had no privacy to speak of. Back then, when she went on a blind date with Qinyue, it was also Ling Feiyu who pulled the strings. She originally wanted to ask Ling Feiyu out this weekend and tell him that she had already married Qinyue. Who would have thought that Ling Feiyu would go to the place she rented earlier to look for her? Jianran quietly listened and waited for Ling Feiyu to finish roaring before saying softly, Feiyu, don't worry, I'm fine. The Starlight project was over this Friday. I will treat you to a meal this weekend. Ling Feiyu shouted angrily. Stupid girl, you scared me to death? Do you think that a meal can compensate for my spiritual loss? Jianran knew that Ling Feiyu's mouth was harsh, but her heart was soft. She could not help but laugh. Then how about I sleep with you for one night to compensate you? When Jianran said this, Qinyue had just pushed open the door and entered when his steps paused slightly. In his heart, he already knew who Jianran was talking to. Jianran usually had a gentle smile on her face and seemed to be close to everyone. In fact, she could really get close to the person in her heart. Ling Feiyu was the only one. Qinyue knew all of this, but Jianran did not know that he knew. She quickly covered the phone and said in a low voice, This is a female friend of mine. Regardless of whether they had feelings or not, they were husband and wife. She would not do anything that would make Qinyue jealous. Qingyue nodded and did not ask any more questions. He left the room very thoughtfully and let Jianran continue to call. However, Jianran thought that Qingyue did not believe. She pursed her lips and smiled helplessly. Maybe he would think that she was that kind of fickle woman. Jianran. Jianran. Ling Feiyu, who did not hear Jianran speak, shouted again from the other end of the phone. Report the address to me. I will go and find you. Jianran knew that Ling Feiyu was worried about her. If she did not let Ling Feiyu see that she was fine today, then Ling Feiyu would definitely call the police to send a message to find someone. Jianran smiled gently. Stop messing around. I will go and find you. After hanging up the phone, Jianran simply packed up and prepared to go to Ling Feiyu's place to stay for the night and honestly tell her about registering for marriage. She knocked on the door of the study and only opened the door when she heard Qingyue agree. Qingyue, I am going to Feiyu's place tonight. I am not coming back. Qingyue immediately got up. I'll drive you there. Jianran shook her head. No need to trouble me. Qingyue stared at her. It's too late. I'm worried. You go out alone. His tone was firm and direct, making Jianran unable to reject him. Qingyue's car was a Land Rover model. For someone of his status, a car was not considered expensive, but it was spacious and comfortable. Qingyue also drove very steadily, just like how he gave people the feeling. Qingyue asked Jianran's address. After Jianran gave the address, the two of them did not talk anymore. They arrived at the destination after nearly an hour. Jianran said thank you and was about to open the car door, but Qingyue reached out and grabbed her. Jianran. His voice was low and sexy. When he called her name, it was always so pleasant to hear. Jianran looked at his hand and then raised her head to meet his gaze. She gently asked, Is there anything else? He let go of his hand and said with some embarrassment, You. Are you angry? Jianran smiled. Why should I be angry? Qingyue. Jianran opened the car door and got out of the car. She stood outside the car and said, Go back quickly. Drive carefully. Qingyue nodded and started the car and left. Seeing his car drive a distance away, Jianran turned around and walked towards Ling Feiyu's residential area. When they just arrived at Jianbei City, Jianran and Ling Feiyu lived together and rented 2 rooms and 1 living room. Later, Jianran went to work at Innovation Technology Company. Because it was too far away, she moved to the company's vicinity to rent a room. After Jianran moved away, Ling Feiyu still stayed here and specially left a room for Jianran. Using Ling Feiyu's words, Jianran could go back to her mother's house at any time to take a look. She saw Jianran appear in front of her properly. Ling Feiyu did not want to bother with her and hugged her iPad to watch the series with great interest. Ling Feiyu ignored people, but there was a person who cared about Jianran. A poodle that looked like a snowball pounced to Jianran's feet, kissed her, and wagged its tail. It was obviously very happy. Jianran casually threw the bag away and picked up the little fellow. Mian Mian, do you miss your mother? The Mian Mian barked twice and squeezed into Jianran's arms with all its strength. It used its actions to show how much it missed its mother. Ling Feiyu's dissatisfied gaze shot over. Mian Mian, you are a little guy who only knows how to take advantage of others. Although you are her biological child, I have raised you for more time than she has raised you. Not only did you not kiss me, you even wanted to show off your affection in front of me. Jianran hugged the Mian Mian and sat beside Ling Feiyu. She said proudly, The Mian Mian is a smart guy. It knows who is the biological mother and who is the stepmother. I am the stepmother? Ling Feiyu threw away the iPad and hugged Jianran domineeringly. Little girl, be careful that I will poison your daughter to death. Before Jianran could say anything, the Mian Mian barked a few times and used its language to express its dissatisfaction towards Ling Feiyu. Seeing such a cute Mian Mian, Jianran's coke was spoiled. She held the Mian Mian up to her face and rubbed it with her face. My daughter is still the most considerate of me. Ling Feiyu rolled her eyes at Jianran. If you want a daughter, then find a man to marry. How many children do you want to have, and how many children do you want to have? Jianran looked at Ling Feiyu and suddenly said very seriously, Feiyu, I have registered for marriage. Get lost. Ling Feiyu pointed to the door, but she quickly realized that Jianran would not make such a joke with her. Her mouth suddenly became so big that it could swallow an egg. She only spoke after a long time. Ran, who is that man? Jianran said, He is the man called Qingyue that you introduced to me last time. Qingyue? Ling Feiyu scratched her head and thought about the name very seriously. After thinking for a long time, she did not have any impression of him. None of the people I introduced to you is called Qingyue. Love stories like this are just the beginning. Subscribe for more captivating tales, share with fellow romantics, and don't miss the next chapter of this unforgettable journey.